welcome back to season 3 of the Fantasy Grimoire podcast. And today we have a very special guest, Stevie Hosler. Welcome.
Hi, thank you for having me.
In our matching pink, because we have this running joke that we're millennials and the pinker the better. And I think we really delivered on that one today.
We absolutely did. As soon as I saw that you were changing the color scheme, I was like, I need to match.
I want to remind readers, because I know there's so much arc discourse right now where people are like, oh, I'm tired of arcs and blah, 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 blah. But for me, I would never have discovered you if it wasn't for one of my arc readers who came in and read your book, was raving about your book. Shout out, Joanna, if you're listening. And then I was like, okay, this is my vibe. I'm going to read it. And now I'm here chatting to you. And that's the power of arc reading. I think we just need to give our readers that reminder in case they needed it. Tell us about Shadow of Lillith.
So Shadow of Lillith is book 1 in a planned, as of right now, 4-book series of 2 different duets. My first duet is about Piper Gorecki. She is a legacy vampire hunter, so her entire family have been vampire hunters. They're a part of a secret society of vampire hunters, and she has been goddess blessed by the Slavic goddess Divana, who is the goddess of moonlight and the hunt, to be the next leader of all of these vampire hunters. So she has a lot going on with just that part of the story. And then the other part of the story is vampires are starting to exhibit very feral and bloodlust-like behavior where they're basically killing for sport and not survival. But these people she's working for don't seem to be too concerned about that. So it's that kind of dichotomy of I have this huge problem on my hands, but also what is kind of going on over here because this is very suspicious.
I want to just spend a minute talking about Piper, where I wouldn't necessarily call her morally grey, but at the same time, she's not this typical hero character. Like, she has these layers to her. And this was definitely how I interpreted her as a reader, is that, sure, she believes in doing the right thing, 100%. Like, I got that from the story. But she'll also, twist it a little bit. Like, she knows she's not supposed to go off onto these investigations on her own, but she's still doing it anyway. So I feel like she's kind of on the edge of a morally grey character. Is that how you intended her when you created her?
Yeah, like you said, she's not morally gray, but I think that she's so passionate about what it is that she does. And she's also very impulsive. Like, she's incredibly brilliantly smart. She has a method to her madness. Like, she's doing investigations. She is looking for patterns of behavior. I really wanted to lean into that Buffy side of her where she's this badass vampire hunter, but also, and you'll see it a few times throughout the book, she loves Law and Order SVU and she just wants to be Olivia Benson so bad. That's her hero. So there's also this kind of detective noir undertone to it. And I think that from her perspective, she's also has this society that the Divana Collective, that she reports to, but they also haven't evolved in a really long time. And with her being in a position where she's going to be a leader, she can affect change. And it's almost like she's kind of testing the boundaries of the change that she wants to see, because she has this other sense of reality of what's going on since they first started in the late 1800s, and now it's 2023 in the book, and life is just different. The way they do things is different, and she just has this sense of urgency that she's like, well, if they're not going to take me seriously, then I'm on my own.
While we're talking about Piper, there is a strong theme of inclusivity throughout the story. As an author myself, I know approaching inclusivity isn't always easy. What was your thinking when you decided, hey, I want this story to be as inclusive as possible, and it will make sense to the story as well?
I identify as, I'm just going to say queer, because learning your sexuality is an ongoing thing. Back when I discovered this about myself, it was probably bisexual, but also at the time, 20-something years ago, that was really the only term we had for it, was you were either gay, straight, or bisexual, and that was the spectrum. I didn't explore it too much in my life because I come from a very, very conservative family, so I dabbled, but I didn't really do anything about that. I am in a hetero-presenting marriage. I love my husband. He's so amazing. But this was an opportunity for me to really like dig into that part of myself. And it came naturally when I was writing it to explore that part of me that has never been showcased. And I only officially came out last year, which was funny because a lot of my friends, when I told them, they were like, oh, we thought everybody knew that. They were like, we did. I was like, oh, so I'm not hiding it. They were like, we love that you felt safe to tell us, but we knew. So when I wrote Piper that way, and it just felt natural, but also the way I presented it in this queer normative world where it's just not spoken about as like, oh, Piper's bisexual, or like, what are your preferences? It's just everybody kind of knows that she's down for whatever as long as the person is cool. That's the world I want to see, and because that's what I didn't have, so I wrote it that way. One of the other things that, and it made me so happy, this was only about a week or two ago, that, so Piper has a girlfriend, Anisha, that you meet in the book. Like, she meets her in the book, which was me saying, okay, well, what's my perfect woman?
Yeah.
It's her. But also Anisha is Indian, and I've had 2 people say I've never seen an Indian love interest. And, you know, thank you so much for doing that. But like we were talking about the inclusivity, that's just what the world looks like. And we need to stop pretending that it doesn't. That doesn't mean that I'm going to write characters that are main characters from that perspective, because it's not my story to tell. But I do have Black characters. I do have Asian characters. My son is half Vietnamese. So it's just representing, what does my sphere look like, and making sure that even if it's not the main character, that there's somebody in that story that you can identify with. And it probably took me too long in my adulthood to realize exactly how much representation matters, but it truly does.
My latest character, she has Mexican heritage. Clearly, I'm not Mexican. And I was like, but I want to start seeing more main characters of color now. Because I'm like, God, 2026, it's time. Was I nervous because of I don't have Mexican heritage, so I have no frame of reference to write from. But someone said something really interesting to me once. I'm not a man, yet I'm writing male characters. And I was like I get it now.
Yeah, and I think it's just important also to have sensitivity readers. So I do have 2 Black characters in Shadow of Lillith, Raina and Damon is going to be a bigger part of the story going forward. But because of that, I had a Black beta reader to make sure that I was representing and just making sure that I wasn't doing anything unintentionally harmful.
That's a big lesson that I've learned now with my latest manuscript. A big part of the story is in a psych ward. Okay, but that term has become offensive now. And for me, and the way I think, I'm like, but it's what it's called. Like I'm confused. Why is it offensive? And then my proofreader, she explained it to me, and we settled on psychiatric hospital as the term. And I think sometimes the way the literary world is evolving, and this is where I agree with you, the sensitivity readers really come in. It's up to us to stay up to date with it, because we're starting to hold people accountable for the things that they've done in the past and become the change that we want to see in the book, the stories we tell. But something that also really caught me by surprise is the very strong Polish ties to your story. You researched this very well, because the way you just felt like a subject matter expert on the Polish side of Piper's heritage, I was like, you've either got Polish heritage or you researched it to death, or both.
I don't know if I have Polish heritage. So my dad's mom's family is from Ukraine, and they were right on the border. So I do have Eastern European heritage. My mother's side of the family is all from Italy, and my next book will have Italian witches. So I'm going to dive into that. When I was writing the book, I am thinking about, well, what kind of vampires do I want? What kind of lore do I want? I think that we grew up on that very Eastern European Dracula type vampirism. And I wanted to just kind of pay homage to that, of like what got me into the genre, what made me such a fan of vampire lore. So I chose more Eastern European. And then when I was doing my research for like, well, where did they actually establish themselves? In the Rhinic Underground, you can still go on tours where they do their ceremonies and such. There are graves down there and remains that are theorized to be vampires. And I was like, oh, that's cool. I was like, that is so cool.
booking my ticket right now. When we would go on a summer holiday, we'd pick a place. And in this case, it was Portugal. And then we kind of travel from one end to the other and we really get to know the country. There's a tiny little city outside of Lisbon called Evora. And I mean, you can walk from one end to the other in like 30 minutes and you're done. That's how tiny it is. But Evora has a bone chapel, literally made from human. That was my reaction. That's why we booked the ticket. And you can actually see how the entire inside of the chapel has been constructed from human bones. I think there was like some plague or something down there. And I am just fascinated by this creepy, grotesque, gothic stuff. Like, other people go gross, and I'm like, I'm in. So that was my reaction as you were
I mean, that place is probably haunted as hell, but
I'm
I'd go during the day. Yeah, so that's kind of where that came from. And it was really fun to dive into. So that's why she's bullish. Because there was just a very strong connection to vampirism in that place.
A big part of when I was researching my vampire characters, I have a fascination, I'm sure you're not surprised, with the Elizabeth Bathory's, Hungary, Vlad the Impaler, and
yes.
to don't know, there's a lot of rumors that is where the original legend of Dracula started. And Vlad the Impaler was actually a dude back in Transylvania, like in the early hundreds. And I'm just like, I am absolutely fascinated where Elizabeth Bathory, what was it? She would bathe in the blood of her servants to stay youthful. And how does this Hungarian noblewoman get away with so much murder? I mean, servants were disappearing. It was wild. Back in the 1500s, she was tried when she was in her mid 40s, which back then was like in her mid 80s kind of thing.
Right.
You didn't
live long.
Yeah. So I'm just like, I could talk about this subject forever. It's fascinating to me. I will never tire of it.
Yeah. So just on that subject real quick of like Vlad the Impaler, if you have not read, it's a YA series by Kirsten White. And she did a gender bend of Vlad the Impaler. It's so fucking good.
Wait, Anti Darken, is it that?
Yes. Okay. Anti Darken. It's so good. I'm obsessed.
I'm already like going.
That's one of my favorite YA series.
I already added to. Well, I guess you just answered the question of recommend a fantasy book. For me, flipping a traditional gender role, because my Dracula is also female, by the way.
Love it.
Because I'm so tired of seeing male Draculas. Like, can we not? Why are we telling the same story over again? It's fine if we telling the story of Dracula over and over again.
Yeah, but we could do it different.
Exactly.
Otherwise, we're just doing the same thing over and over again.
So I personally, just to wrap that up, love that you didn't go the sparkly vampires route, because I'm just like, please don't get me wrong. I ate up the Twilight phase just like anyone else. I have a special edition.
Can I admit something to you? I've never read Twilight and I've never seen the movies.
Okay, so
everyone's like, how? I said, because when it was popular, I had a newborn. I wasn't reading. I was just trying to find a minute to sleep.
The vampires that she had, the world that she created from, was really, really cool. And she could have done so much more with that. Like the Volturi, and I know you haven't watched it, so that means nothing to you.
I know the entire thing just from like Instagram. I feel like I've seen it all. I feel like I've read it without having to, because it's just so ingrained into our society.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, I get it.
I know this is maybe not a popular answer. I loved the first Twilight movie. It was like that indie kind of gritty feel. It was shot in a very different style. Obviously, it became popular after that. And then they got tons more budget. And it was almost like the production went to shit in movies 2 to 5, because the last movie was in 2 movies. And I'm like, your wigs are terrible. Your effects are terrible. What the fuck happened? Your indie version was 3,000 times better with the style of shooting. And that's not usually something I pay attention to, but it is that noticeable. I feel very passionately about that, in case you didn't realize. So I ask every guest this question. I'm going to ask you as well. Your bookish hot take.
I don't know if I have one. That's a hard question. Okay, well, this isn't a hot take. I think that it's because it's come up a couple of times. So I was at a signing last week and it was going very well. Shout out to everybody who came and bought my book. Like, that was such an amazing experience. But there were people who were like, well, when's book 2 coming out? Because I don't want to read this book if book 2's not out. And I was like, look, this book literally just came out like 3 months ago. So
chill.
And I got a day job, man. Like, it takes time. And I was just trying to explain, if you do not buy book 1, I have no money to publish book 2. So it's harmful to authors when people are like, well, I'm just going to wait for the whole series to come out because we have no money. And I said, even in a traditional space, if nobody's buying the book, you may not get the deal for book 2. So if nobody's buying it, and like, it's fine to buy it and read it closer to when book 2 is coming out. Maybe you don't even like the book. And my book obviously isn't for everybody. Maybe you read it and you're like, yeah, I don't really care about book 2. But if you don't buy it, I can't pay my editor. I can't pay my cover artist. I can't pay for my interior art. I can't pay to print the damn thing. So it's not a hot take, but I think it's something that we need to really start educating readers on, is that mentality is super harmful to authors, whether they're self-publishing, indie publishing, or trad publishing. It is harmful to us because then we don't get the funding we need to keep doing what we're doing. I'm leaning against my Shadow of Lillith poster that I take to events. I'm like, how cute they are, though.
I love them.
They're so adorable.
But I think that's so important because and I want to just build on that. I'm in the middle of an arc run for my latest release, and I have had a few readers. By the way, I love it when readers come into my inbox. I don't know if you feel the same, but like,
oh, I love it.
Connecting with the reader,
as long as you're not going to be mean.
Yeah, if you're being mean, stay out of it. But I've had a few of them like, oh my god, I can't believe it ends like that. When's the next book coming out? And I'm like, well, next year. Oh, but that's so far away. And I'm like, sure. And I was like, but for me as an author, I need a break from this world, because the more I stay in this world, the more I there's this English saying, you can't see the wood from the trees. And that's why I juggle manuscripts, is because the distance is the best gift I can give myself. I was like, sure, I can churn out books one after the other. That's possible. But I'm like, what you would be getting as well as from that wouldn't be the best quality. And I've heard a few people saying that, not specifically my readers, but like in general, oh, they just rather want to wait until like it's clearer that the rest of the series is being released. And I'm like, you wouldn't do that to a trad author, so why are you going to do it to us? But at the same time, a trad author, sometimes they only get a trad deal for a specific book or 2 books. And if those 2 books don't do well, there's a chance that they won't get another deal from their publishing house as well. So I fully agree. And I love that you said that.
Yeah. And I mean, I took almost 2 months off after Shadow of Lilith's release to, number one, give my brain a break, because I mean, I was editing and proofing up until September, and the book came out in early November. And I just wanted to be able to enjoy the fact that I just published my first book. Like, I wanted to just enjoy, like you said, I love that people DM me and they feel so passionately about it. So I was like, I'm just going to hang out and give my brain a little break. And when I was done with that, my creativity was on, because I had already started writing another book, and that one is with my beta readers right now. It was so much easier for me to write that book after I gave myself a rest.
I want to chat about consequences in fantasy, because, and I've seen a lot of discussion in the community where if you look at a traditional epic fantasy, it's hero, she discovers she has the power, she magically, no pun intended, gets everything right and saves the world. Okay, so that's the age-old formula. But then with the way the storytelling is shifting, we're seeing a lot more consequences in fantasy. I'm not sure what the correct way is to phrase it without spoiling everything, but I felt there was a lot of consequences in your stories, where there was a lot that went wrong. There was a lot of things that couldn't be changed. I hope that's vague enough. And I felt that, as you tell the story, we're going to have to see how those consequences play out. And I want to know from you as the author, why did you decide to go the route of consequences instead of like, hey, Piper can go and save the world and she just magically gets everything handed to her? Scene.
I think that's so boring. What is her journey?
Yeah.
Like, what is she fighting for if she doesn't have any places where she makes mistakes, where she doesn't get it right? I think that is so boring to have someone who just magically is amazing at everything, because that's not how life is at all. And I will tell you, because she makes so many mistakes, I was so afraid that Piper was going to be wholly unlikable. I thought people were going to be like, I can't stand her. But then I found that everybody found that so relatable that, like, sometimes she's making a decision on the fly, and sometimes it works out, and sometimes it has absolutely dire consequences, which you will see in the cliffhanger of the book. But that's part of her journey, and I think that it nicely sets up book 2 for now. She has learned all these lessons, and she has seen what her kind of flying by the seat of her pants way of doing things can do on the detrimental side. And how's that going to play out for her, and also for her learning to be a leader.
I was having this debate with another author friend. So I typically write morally gray characters. That's my thing. I love writing that. There's one goody two-shoes character that I'm writing coming up. And let me tell you, I am struggling. And I have had, I would say, 1 or 2 reviewers where I can see they typically read the epic fantasy that I just did, where they're like, I didn't care for the characters. I couldn't connect with them. And I actually understand, because they do want the goody two-shoes that will save them, because that's what escapism is in our reading. And I get it. I see the good stuff in my day-to-day life. And I don't mean that to brag, but just to show why I love to go the morally gray route. So I want something different. I want to play with the things that we're not supposed to do in real life. Like, oh, my vampire character, someone pissed her off, so she exploded his head with her blood magic. That would be fun in a normal day scenario. That's for me, like, why I find that so fun. And I also understand it won't be for everyone, but God, I love Piper. She is so fucking relatable. Like, girl, I'm like, do better next time. But I was like, that's fine. We're still behind you.
Yeah, and I think also, like, I think we are going to see a little bit more of a morally black Piper in book 2 for some of it, just because of what plays out in book 1. She's probably going to be in a little bit of a darker headspace. So I think that we will see her, give a fuck turn off a little bit more, but hopefully in a way that doesn't cause her even more trouble. I have started writing it, though.
Obviously, I've read Shadow of Lillith, if the listeners haven't gathered yet. I literally messaged you, like, as in I was in the final chapters, and I messaged you and I was like, oh my God, you are diabolical. That. Obviously,
You're not the first person to use that term, and I'm like, I love that. Like, I love that so many people, and so I do a comic book club at one of my local comic book shops, and I'm pretty good friends with the guys who work there, and one of them, last month when we had book club, he was like, I'm like 25% of the way through your book. And then last night I got there, and he came around the counter and was like, I have to hug you. And then I was like, and then you're going to yell at me.
That's the beauty of fantasy, is that if you are not making me feel something, I don't want it. So,
and that's the thing, like, you're not going to buy book 2 if I didn't make you feel something at the end of book 1, because that's kind of one of the other, and maybe that's like another hot take, is so many people get so pissed off about huge cliffhangers. I'm like, but what's going to make you want to buy book 2 if I don't have you so emotionally invested? So, like, people are mad about, like, the cliffhangers, we'll just say, from, like, Rebecca Yarros in the Fourth Wing series. I'm like, no, that's fucking delicious. Make me want the next book. And you did, because now I'm like, okay, I have 15 million theories, and I can't wait to see how they play out.
Using Rebecca as an example, I fully agree with you. Now, I know Onyx Storm, it had mixed reception. Some people loved it, some people hated it. I'm somewhere in the middle. I'm still constantly chasing that high from Fourth Wing. I don't care what anyone says. Fucking love Fourth Wing. It was time. If it wasn't for you, fine, but like, I loved it. I think Iron Flame got a lot of unnecessary hate. Do I think it was better than Fourth Wing? No. I don't think any of the books series have topped Fourth Wing yet. I saw some people bitching about Onyx Storm. Rebecca has the same formula. The after effects of the previous book in the opening, some magical question book in the middle of the book, and at the end, some big battle, someone dies, and we end off on a cliffhanger. And I'm like, well, yes, that's kind of storytelling structure.
Yeah. That's kind of basic storytelling is. And even if you go and look at outlines that help authors, because I looked at stuff, this was my first full-length novel. I've only written short stories up until now. Also, as clearly an avid reader, understanding things like chapter management and story pacing, it's giving you that formula. I mean, obviously, like, you can play with it as much as you want, but there is a basic structure to keep a reader wanting to keep reading and wanting to keep turning pages. And you kind of have to follow that formula. or people are going to just set your book down.
She's literally going to Bisgayeth War College. What did you think they were going to do? Sit in the field and hold each other's hands and plant flowers?
Oh my God, I want to do that with, I would love to sit in a field and hold hands with Riddick.
Oh my God, she's going to kill Riddick.
That whole book, I was like, if something happens to him, I swear to God.
Listen,
but that's a sign of a good story.
if she touches Taryn, like,
Yeah.
so there were two creatures in fantasies: Abraxas in the Throne of Glass series, Sky Puppy with his little daisies in the field. I cannot touch him ever.
Yeah. I have Manon right here. And when I have money again, because I'm very broke right now, I'm going to have Abraxas coming up and over.
He is, honestly, the way I adored him first, and then I was like, Taryn with all his little grumpy,
I know.
I love you.
I love him.
I'm not showing that. I was like, don't you dare. I know there's a lot of theories that Taryn is not going to make it until the end of the series, and I was like, I do not accept that theory. You can take that theory back.
Yeah. I'm not hearing it.
So I do also want to chat a little bit about the treatment of indie authors, which you've kind of touched on already. What I'm seeing, and I'm sure you can agree, is that there's a lot of indie authors going viral. So to anyone that doesn't know, that means they self-published. They prove that they can create enough hype around their books, and then they end up getting a traditional offer, and then they republish their books. I'll give an example. H.M. Wolf, Dagonmouth. I recently read that, and it's one of my god tier books. Like, hands down, the hype.
I have it right here. I just haven't gotten to it yet.
Let me tell you, there are no indie copies left. I
do have one. I got one just in time.
So no one likes to show off Stevie. I had to get my editor to go to Books A Million, okay, because my editor and I were friends as well. She bought me the indie copy in Books A Million because only Americans can get it. I can't anymore. And then she's like, ship it to me in Amsterdam. That's how badly I wanted an indie copy. And then I'm going to go pre-order the trad version because I want both. H. Wolf is a wonderful example where I think she posted recently, and don't quote me on this, I could have the number. I think she got something like 1 million page reads in a day.
Oh my gosh.
And then obviously she got the trad deal. I think it is Scarlet Press or Simon & Schuster. I'm not sure. I think Scarlet Press is an imprint of Simon & Schuster. And I know it's doing a lot of news in the press because it's a 7-figure deal for the duology. It doesn't go that big for a duology. So it's a really impressive trad deal. We are seeing a shift in how indie authors are being viewed, as we are being taken seriously, where a few years ago we were viewed as, hey, you're not good enough to get a trad deal on your own, so this is what you've kind of fell back on. I think the way that the internet has evolved, it's made it a lot more accessible for us. However, there are some negative sides as well to it. And I just wanted to know your take. Like, what are you seeing in how authors are being treated, both indie and trad?
I haven't seen a lot of negative treatment of indie authors just within my sphere. But I do know that it's there because we've just been exposed to it. I mean, I made the decision not to query for a number of personal reasons. I like having 100% creative control over what I'm doing. I love that I get to choose every aspect of my book. And something that my husband told me after I got published, and just, him obviously being in on my process and how important it is to me that I am working with female and queer artists and vendors for everything that I do. That might get taken away from me if I go trad. And I love having everything, my pulse on every aspect of it. Maybe that's an eldest daughter thing I need to work out in therapy. Neither here nor there, but he said, your DNA is on every aspect of this book. He was like, you have chosen everything that goes into this. And I'm so proud of that. And I'm still professionally edited. It's just, I'm doing it on my terms, and, I'm working a day job, so I have to be on my own schedule. And that's another thing that people need to understand about indie authors. And they're like, why aren't you pumping out these books? I'm not making any money right now. All of my money from my book goes into the next book. I'm just trying to sustain the ecosystem, which is why I still need a day job, because I just had 3 really, really good book fairs that I did. And that money's gone because I had to buy more copies of my book for the book fairs I have this month. I had to pay my character artist. I have to pay my editor because I'm almost ready to send her my work in progress. So that money's gone. I am back at zero.
I don't have a kid. Well, I have the third child, but I don't have a human child.
Oh, they're so expensive.
And I am fortunate enough to have the disposable income where I can funnel money into the author side of things. But to your point of where, sure, I have made some money as an author, but I've nowhere even near broken even. Just today, I was bitching to my husband because I am getting my first sprayed edge, by the way, and I'm freaking out. I've published so many books, but I've never done the sprayed edge thing before, and it's like a really luxurious treat for myself, and I love it.
It is.
But I have to order from Book Vault in the UK, okay, because they don't have one here in Europe. And I had to pay, I paid £20 for the book already, and that's the sprayed edge version. Pounds, not euros, remember that?
Mm-hmm.
This morning, I get a notification from our carrier in the Netherlands. I must still pay another £12 customs clearance fee. Well, clearly I can't afford £12. Like, that's not the end of the world, but it's like the principle of how it keeps adding up. And then like someone goes, oh, but you can just send me this book and da-da-da. And I'm like, okay, I sent 5 copies of books now. That's €100 gone. And that's on top of my editing bill, that's on top of my design bill, that's on top of character art. Like, it adds up, guys. It really does.
Yeah, it adds up so fast. And to your point, I'm lucky enough that between my husband and I, we were able to put a lot of our own money into the book. Yeah. But I have a kid graduating high school this year. That ability for me to keep putting my own money into the book is about to go away.
Yeah, college, university.
Yeah, so I need to sell books to be able to keep doing this, because the ability for me to keep paying for this, like you said, funneling my own money into it, is dwindling by the day. But I want to keep doing this because this is what I'm supposed to be doing.
If someone is reading Shadow of Lillith, what is one thing that you hope they take away from your story?
I think the biggest thing that I want people to take away from it, and this is something that's so important to me and that was very deliberate, is the importance of a platonic relationship and those friendships, especially a male-female friendship, because I don't think that we see a lot of male-female friendships that don't turn into a friends to lovers. And people were shipping Piper and Adam from the start, and I was like, absolutely the fuck not. We're not doing that, for a number of reasons that I don't think that they'd make a good couple.
No, I think they'd kill each other.
They'd absolutely kill each other. And also, I have so many close male friends who have been with me since college or even before. And a lot of people love their relationship in the beta read, but some people thought that some of the way that they treat each other, like with the little like forehead kisses and stuff, was weird. And I was like, but that's not weird for me, because when I see my friends Ryan and Matt, if I don't get my fucking forehead kiss, I'm going to be pissed. Like, put it here, guys. And they do. Every single time I get a little cheek kiss, forehead kiss, huge hugs. And also, I think that just like with the media that we grew up with, like Friends is one of my favorite TV shows ever. And they were so affectionate with each other without wanting anything from each other. And I think that that is so healthy and so important. And I think it's something that men especially need to see portrayed in a healthy manner, that women are human and you can have a very deep emotional connection with someone without wanting something more beyond the bounds of that friendship and having that support.
So we have Shadow of Lillith. You've mentioned another work in progress. What else can we expect from you in your author career?
All right. So I do have a book coming out this July. It's called The Stars in Our Hearts. It's a witchy period fantasy about 2 witches in 1500s Italy who cast a spell, because I'm all on my witchy bullshit and I am also on your best friend is so important, that they cast a spell to bind their souls to each other. So a piece of each other's soul goes into the other person. They're burned as witches, but every time they're reincarnated, they meet each other again. So I go through 5 time periods where they come back together. It's kind of like, I would say, short stories. It's getting longer by the minute. This was supposed to be like a 100-page book, and now I'm like over 200, and it's probably going to end up even more once I edit it. I'm like, oh, well, it's a full-length novel now. Yeah. So I divided it into different time periods. It's not a historical fiction. I've taken some liberties, but I did my best to get the actual time periods as historically accurate as I can, as far as like the clothing, the setting, the jargon, turns of phrase, things they eat, how they travel. I got that stuff right, but don't go fact checking me on a bunch of stuff because I made it up, because it is fantasy and I can do that.
I think that's beautiful. I've always said like romance can be your best friend, where
Mm-hmm.
it's like when you lose a friend, that's harder than the relationship. Like fuck the relationship, like they can go. But to lose a friend in any capacity is devastating.
It is. And so like, and I would say this is my most personal book, because there is so much more of me in it than there was in Shadow of Lillith. Look, I love Piper, but she gives me fucking anxiety. I am much more an Adam, where I'm like, these are rules and this is how I operate. I follow the rules. I am a good girl. And Piper's like, and I'm like, writing someone who's the polar opposite of me. I'm like, oh, don't do that. And then she does it. And I'm like, oh, I'm not in charge here. So my characters are Marcella and Kiara. And I am very much Marcella. She is a very older sister vibe. She is very level-headed. So I was able to put a lot of myself into Marcella, and then she has this best friend, Kiara, who is such a free spirit, and she might be my favorite character I've written so far, just because of how much I put into her about, like, my own friendships.
Oh,
Some things that, and there's some stuff in there that's very personal to me, and just some scenes that were definitely inspired by me and my best friend, Stacy.
to read it. Oh my god. So
I am launching a Kickstarter for it from March 27th, I think is my go live, until the end of April. So Kickstarters are important because they help me pay my editor. They help me pay for my author copies.
if anyone is listening to this episode and they're like, I'm vibing with Stevie, I want to connect with her, what is the best way to do that?
I'd say Instagram. I gave up my TikTok because the American government cannot be trusted for anybody over here, but I know a lot of people, we just got rid of our TikTok.
And if someone wants to support you, what's the best way to do that?
My website, or just like sharing my posts, reviews.
Oh my God.
Reviews are so important. Reviews are so important. The title of the next book.
Yes, please. Drum roll.
Okay. So I have started writing the next vampire book, and the next book is Blood of Lilith. And I do have the cover, but I'm not doing a cover reveal yet, but I do have the cover.
So I am one of the select few that has seen said gorgeous
She
cover.
has. It's so good.
What I would like to say is that don't trust Stevie. Don't take her at face value for the things that she does. Look for the Easter eggs, because that's what I did, because she's diabolical like that. That's my take on your cover.
Oh, it is one big Easter egg.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. Don't trust Stevie the person, but not Stevie the author.
Oh no, I can't be trusted at all. Not in the least bit.
But Stevie, thank you so much. Wait, your full name is Stephanie, right?
No.
What is your full name then? Or is it just
Stevie?
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
It's my government name.
So, Stephanie's
I didn't do a pen name because my first name is already like a pen name.
Okay, well, I think it's really cool because I automatically think of Stevie Nicks, and Stevie Nicks
That's
is...
why it's my name.
No, your parents did that. Okay, that
my
is
mom did that. My dad did not like that.
Well, I think your mom rocked, and you can tell her I said that, and that's my take on it. But Stevie, thank you so much. I have loved chatting to you. I've loved getting
Thank
to
you so much.
Your thought process, and I cannot wait to hype up your episode on social media.
Thank you. I appreciate you so much.